Aries. Have you noticed how some moments feel like they arrive quietly, yet everything inside you sharpens at once, like your senses lean in before your thoughts catch up? You, who move with instinct and spark, can feel when something is about to begin. And right now, at the very edge of March, that feeling hums just beneath the surface of your breath. It shows up in small ways. A thought that returns without effort, a subtle tension in your chest when you imagine staying the same, a flicker of curiosity when you picture choosing differently. Nothing dramatic, nothing loud, just a steady awareness that something is shifting its position in your life, asking you to notice. Time feels almost suspended here, as if this final stretch of the month holds a quiet kind of pressure. Not the kind that rushes you, but the kind that gathers meaning. You stand in a space where one direction begins to separate from another, where a single decision starts to carry more weight than it seemed to before, stretching forward into years you have yet to touch. There is a path that feels familiar, one your body already understands, one that flows easily because it has been walked before. And then there is another, less defined, more alive, holding a different kind of energy that asks you to tune in rather than move quickly. The difference between them lives in a subtle place, one you can feel more than explain. This is where clarity begins to matter more than speed, where your natural urge to act meets a deeper invitation, to sense, to align, to choose with intention. Something about this moment feels timed, as if it arrived with precision, as if you reached it at the exact point where awareness and opportunity finally meet. If you feel this moment marking a shift within you, anchor it now. Comment 333, because just beneath this awareness, a direction is already forming, waiting for you to recognize it. There's a moment when you begin to notice it, not as a dramatic split, but as a quiet divergence inside your own awareness. One part of you leans toward what already feels mapped out, familiar in texture, smooth in rhythm, something your body could step into without hesitation. And the other, it carries a different pulse, less defined, slightly electric, asking for your attention before it offers you certainty. You can almost feel both directions at once, like standing with one foot in each current. One flows steady, predictable, already shaped by past choices, already leading toward outcomes you can sense without needing to see them fully. The other feels alive in a way that is harder to name, like it holds movement, expansion, a kind of openness that only reveals itself as you move with it. This is where the tension begins to build, not as pressure from the outside, but as a subtle tightening within. Your mind starts comparing, weighing, trying to translate feeling into logic, while something deeper inside you already recognizes the difference. One path carries continuity, the other carries possibility. And here's where it becomes clearer, almost suddenly. These are timelines, not just choices. Each direction holds its own sequence, its own unfolding, its own version of you moving through time. The familiar path continues a story already in motion, repeating patterns with slight variations, keeping everything within a range your system understands. The other shifts the storyline itself, introducing new dynamics, new environments, new reflections that reshape how you experience your life. You might notice how your body responds when you imagine each one, a certain calm that feels settled, and another kind of energy that feels awake, alert, almost like stepping into something that meets you at a higher level of awareness. Neither feels random, both feel real, but they move differently, and more importantly, they lead differently. This is the quiet truth unfolding here. Direction defines momentum, and momentum defines what becomes natural over time. What you choose now begins to organize the next stretch of your life in ways that will only become obvious later, once the movement has already taken hold. And as this awareness settles in, something else starts to come into focus. The timing of why this choice is appearing right now, at the exact edge of where one phase closes and another begins. It might look like an ordinary evening, the last day of March fading out the same way any other day does. The light shifts a little softer, the air feels slightly different against your skin, and somewhere in the background, time moves forward without asking for your attention. But if you slow down just enough, you begin to notice something subtle. The space between moments feels wider, like a pause stretching just a second longer than usual, as if the day itself is holding a breath, waiting. You move through familiar motions, maybe checking the time, maybe replaying a thought that has followed you all day. Yet underneath all of it, there's a quiet awareness that this point is not just another continuation. It feels like a line, thin, almost invisible, yet real enough that you can sense when you are standing right on it. On one side, everything you have already set in motion continues to echo, patterns, decisions, rhythms that have been building over time. On the other side, something begins to open, not fully formed, not fully clear, but undeniably present. A new cycle doesn't arrive loudly. It begins the moment you recognize that you have stepped into it. And here, in this exact space, your awareness sharpens. You start to realize that beginnings are shaped long before anything visible changes. The way you enter this next phase carries weight. The energy you bring, the direction you choose, the clarity you allow yourself to hold. This is where Aries energy quietly takes its place, not as urgency, but as initiation. Not a rush forward, but a conscious step that sets the tone for everything that follows. The first movement holds a kind of imprint, one that continues to ripple outward long after the moment itself has passed. You can feel that this threshold responds to attention. The more present you become, the more defined everything starts to feel. Time itself seems to listen, to the quality of your awareness, to the intention behind your next step. And right here, as this subtle shift settles into something more tangible, another layer begins to emerge. One that asks how you choose to move once you recognize exactly where you stand. You felt this before, that instant spark, the surge that rises through your body and points you forward before a single thought has time to form. It comes quickly, cleanly, like a green light flashing inside you, asking for movement, asking for now. And often you move with it, you trust it, you step. But something here invites you to pause right at that edge, not to slow you down, but to let you see what's actually moving through you. Because there are moments when that surge comes from clarity, and moments when it rises from habit, from patterns that have learned how to imitate instinct. It's subtle at first. The difference doesn't shout. It reveals itself in layers. You might notice how one kind of action feels sharp, almost urgent, like it wants release more than direction. It pushes forward, eager to resolve something quickly, to change the state you're in. There's energy in it, real energy, but it flickers. It moves fast, then fades, leaving you somewhere that feels familiar in a way you can't quite explain. Then there's another kind of movement, quieter, steadier. It doesn't rush you, yet it holds a deeper pull, like something within you has already aligned and is simply waiting for your body to follow. This one feels different. It expands instead of contracts. It settles even as it moves. And this is where the real shift begins to take shape. Because action alone doesn't define your path, direction does. The first step carries the imprint of everything that follows, and when that step comes from awareness, it organizes what unfolds next in a completely different way. You begin to see it more clearly now, almost like watching yourself from a slight distance. The moments where you moved quickly, and the moments where something in you chose, fully, before anything happened externally. The outcomes don't just look different, they feel different, they build differently, they sustain themselves in ways that reach further than the moment they began. This is the quiet test unfolding here. Not whether you move, but how you enter your movement. Not how fast, but how aligned. And as this recognition deepens, another layer starts to emerge, one that stretches beyond this single moment into the longer arc of what one decision can set into motion over time. It rarely looks significant at the beginning, just a choice, a moment, a quiet decision that feels almost ordinary as it passes through you. Nothing around you shifts immediately, nothing announces itself as life-changing, and yet something deeper has already begun to rearrange. Think of it like this: one direction alters how you show up the next morning. The way you speak, the way you respond, the kind of opportunities you notice. And from there, something subtle starts to build. A conversation leads to another. A decision shapes a habit. A habit begins to define a pattern. Then time carries it forward. Months pass, then years, and what once felt like a single moment becomes structure. Your financial flow starts to reflect the standards you chose in that moment. What you accepted, what you pursued, what you allowed to grow. It doesn't happen all at once. It organizes itself quietly, consistently, like a current that strengthens the longer it runs. The same shift touches your relationships. The way you chose to align with yourself begins to echo in who you connect with, how you engage, what you tolerate, what you invite in. People respond to the version of you that decision created, and over time, your environment reshapes around it. And underneath all of it, something even more fundamental begins to settle. Your sense of self-worth. Not as an idea, but as a lived experience. What you chose becomes what you believe you deserve, and that belief filters into every area of your life without needing to be spoken. This is how the ripple expands. One decision doesn't stay contained, it moves across time, across areas, across layers of your life that seem separate until you begin to see how deeply they are connected. 12 years is enough time for that ripple to become a landscape, enough time for patterns to solidify, for paths to deepen, for a version of your life to fully take form. And when you look back, it rarely traces itself to something dramatic. It traces back to a moment like this, where a direction was chosen. You begin to feel the weight of that more clearly now, not as pressure, but as awareness. Because when everything is connected like this, the signals that reach you next start to carry a different kind of meaning. You start to notice it in pieces. A feeling shows up, familiar, almost predictable, like you've stood in this exact emotional space before. It doesn't arrive loudly, it settles in quietly, carrying the same tone, the same weight, the same question that never fully resolved the last time it passed through you. Then something else appears, a situation slightly different on the surface, yet unmistakably similar underneath. The same type of conversation, the same dynamic, the same turning point where everything seems to pause and wait for you to respond again. And then the thoughts. They return in loops, not all at once, but in moments. While you're driving, while you're resting, while your mind drifts just enough for them to rise back up. The same idea, the same curiosity, the same inner nudge that keeps circling, asking for your attention in a way that feels intentional. At first, it feels like coincidence. Then it starts to feel like a pattern. You begin to see it more clearly when you step back, just slightly. These moments connect. The feeling, the situation, the thought. They echo each other, forming a quiet rhythm that has been playing longer than you realized. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. The repetition becomes visible, almost precise. This is where something shifts inside you, because recognition changes your position. You are no longer just moving through these experiences, you are aware of them. And that awareness creates space, a small but powerful opening where something different can emerge. You might feel a sense of familiarity soften into clarity. What once felt confusing begins to organize itself. The pattern reveals its shape, and with it, A new kind of choice becomes available. One that didn't feel accessible before you saw the repetition for what it is. There's a quiet intelligence in how these signals appear, how they repeat just enough to be recognized, just enough to be felt. And as you stay with that awareness, another layer begins to come forward, one that speaks through something even more immediate than thought. Pause for a moment and bring your attention inward. There's a place where your body responds before your mind begins to explain. It happens quickly. A slight tightening in your chest, a subtle lift in your breath, a quiet sense of ease that spreads without effort. These signals arrive instantly, clean, unfiltered, carrying a kind of clarity that words often try to catch up with later. You've felt it many times. That immediate reaction when something aligns. Your body softens, your shoulders drop, your breath deepens in a way that feels natural. And in other moments, there's a different response. A contraction, a hesitation, a density that settles in, asking for your attention in a more grounded, physical way. This is where your inner compass begins to speak. It doesn't argue, it doesn't analyze, it simply responds. Before logic builds its case, before reasons begin to form, your body has already registered the direction of what's in front of you. The clarity lives there first, in sensation, in instinct, in the quiet intelligence that moves faster than thought. As you stay with this awareness, something begins to shift. You start noticing how different choices feel before they happen. One creates a sense of expansion, like space opening within you, like your energy naturally leaning forward. Another carries a weight, a subtle resistance that gathers even when everything on the surface appears smooth. This isn't about forcing yourself to decide, it's about recognizing what is already clear within you. The more you tune into this, the more refined it becomes. The signals sharpen, the responses become easier to trust, and your sense of direction begins to feel less like something you search for and more like something you follow. A steady, grounded knowing that unfolds in real time, guiding each step as it comes. And as this connection deepens, you begin to realize something even more powerful. That the moment you acknowledge this inner clarity, you are already stepping into a different kind of choice, one that begins to shape what unfolds next. It happens in a moment so small you could almost miss it. You feel the clarity, and then there's a space. A quiet opening where nothing external has changed yet, where everything still looks the same, yet something inside you has already shifted into alignment. This is the point where awareness turns into choice. Not the kind of choice that lives in thought, circling endlessly, weighing possibilities. This one feels different. It lands, it settles, it becomes something you can stand on. And in that instant, something activates. A timeline doesn't begin with a dramatic move. It begins the second you align with a direction internally. The moment you say yes, even silently, even before any visible action follows, your energy reorganizes around that decision. Your attention shifts. Your responses begin to change. What you notice, what you allow, what you move toward, all of it starts to adjust, almost automatically. This is where participation comes in, because awareness alone opens the door. Engagement moves you through it. A small action, a simple step, a single acknowledgement becomes the bridge between what you feel and what you live. It doesn't need to be big, it needs to be real. Something that confirms, in your own experience, that the direction you sensed is now the direction you choose. You might feel it as a quiet sense of power returning to you. Not loud, not forceful, but steady, like something has clicked into place, like your movement and your intention are finally speaking the same language. And from here, everything begins to respond. Opportunities align differently, conversations take on new meaning. Your environment starts reflecting the version of you that made that choice. It unfolds naturally, step by step, because the signal you sent was clear. This is how timelines shift, not through force, but through conscious alignment followed by intentional action. If you are ready to set your direction with clarity, mark this moment. Comment, "I choose my direction." And as you do, you may begin to feel something settle even deeper within you, a sense that this choice is already shaping what comes next. It feels quieter now, like everything that once moved around you has gently settled into place. The urgency softens, the questions loosen their grip, and what remains is something steady, something clear enough that you can feel it without needing to explain it. You stand here with a different kind of awareness, one that doesn't rush, one that doesn't search. It simply knows. And in that knowing, there's a sense of grounding, like your energy has found its center, like your next step already carries intention before it even takes form. Aries. This is where a beginning truly starts, not in movement alone, but in the commitment that forms within you before anything shifts on the outside. A quiet decision, held fully, becomes the root of everything that follows. It shapes how you walk forward, how you respond, how you build what comes next. Your past feels different from here, less like something behind you, more like something beneath you. A foundation. Every experience, every turn, every realization now settles into place as support, as structure, as something that holds you steady as you move into this new phase. There's a calm strength in this moment, a presence that feels complete in itself, yet open, like a door that has already been unlocked, simply waiting for you to walk through with awareness. Seal this moment with intention and let your next chapter begin. Comment 888. And if this journey resonated with you, you can gently like this video, share it with someone who might feel this same shift, and stay connected for what continues to unfold. Because something in you has already begun to move, and this is only the first step into where it leads next.